Hello, everybody. How's it going? I haven't done not everybody because there are, billions of people on the planet and there are 9 people here joke lately. So let me do that now. Well, not everybody. I see Roger, Donna, Frank, Webb, Bill, John, Chuck, Brian. That's all the new names I see. There are other people watching apparently, but those are the people I see there. Hey, everybody. Why don't we do a show? Kind of a short show today. Just show you, just show you. Cosby. There's not a lot of call for Cosby imitations anymore. Sorry. Yeah, kind of a short show today. So why don't we just get into it and see what happens? Wait, let me make sure I'm recording. See? Oh, boo. That was on your mark. Get set. Whoops. Okay, I'm recording. Fine. So happy New Year, I guess. It's Wednesday, the 2nd of December, 2020, and this is macOS Ken Live. Is it too early to say Happy New Year? I guess it is. Of course, it's too early to say Happy New Year, and yet we have all the lists. So it's only 1/12 of the year. Hi, everybody. I'm Ken Ray. Thank you very much for joining me for this live thing called macOS Ken Live. Born of the Daily Show. Born of the Daily Show, macOS Ken, and my having an extra hour a day that I didn't know what to do with. What am I going to do? Exercise? Sort of a short show today. Second half of the show, we'll do some feedback on the waterproofing or lack thereof of iPhones. This has been something we've been talking about for the past couple of days on macOS Ken, and I got an email that I want to share here. Probably share Ken as well, since that's where he was listening, but worth sharing, I think. First half of the show, though, Happy New Year. Let's just skip Christmas. In fact, let's skip 2020. Have you seen the Christmas ornament that is a dumpster fire with 2020 on the front? I don't think that's fair. I mean, it's fair, whatever you want to do, however you want to, think about it. Apple came out with its list in the past couple of days, or lists in the past couple of days, the top podcasts of the year, the top books of the year. And then yesterday, I think they came out with their top apps of the year. They were doing both downloads and also just some of their own picks. So we'll run through some of those. Well, let's start actually with sort of the framing of the whole thing, because I said it depends on how you look at it. You want to look at 2020 as a dumpster fire? That's fine. It's funny because I was watching Last Week Tonight with John Oliver on YouTube earlier this week. Not that it's a YouTube show, but I caught it on YouTube, or this part anyway. And he talked about the fact that at the end of 2016, they thought that 2016 was so bad that they blew up the year 2016 in a very controlled, very fun sort of way, right? And then 2020 happened. And so they actually went out to a rock quarry and blew up a 2020 that was about 2 stories tall. I would say it was ridiculous. And that's one way to look at 2020, I suppose. Engadget had a thing that said, Apple's top apps of 2020 highlight quarantine life. And I can't help but think that maybe how you read it highlights what it highlights. Do you know what I mean? Look, I'm not going to be Pollyanna. 2020 has been a sack of stuff. And I think you know what I mean when I say stuff. There's horrible things all around. Even those of us who have been relatively unaffected, the wolves are at the door sometimes, depending on what you're talking about. Sometimes it's family members, sometimes it's financial stuff. 2020 has not been fun, but to say that the list of apps highlights quarantine life, I'm not sure it's true. There are 2 things on here actually that I see that highlight quarantine life. Let's go through what they picked though, because according to this piece from Engadget, Apple picked 1 app and 1 game for each of their platforms. It'll probably make game makers happy to know that their games aren't apps. Why are they paying anything in the App Store then? The app they chose for iPhone, that Apple chose for iPhone, is Wake Out, which is billed as exercise for busy people. The game they chose was Genshin Impact. For iPad, the app they chose was Zoom. The game they chose was Legends of Runeterra, which is a strategy card game, it looks like. For Apple TV, they chose Disney Plus as the app, and the game was Dundera Trials of Fear, which you can tell I play a lot. And for the Mac, they chose the calendar app Esticle as the app, and the game Disco Elysium, about which I know nothing except it's being turned into a TV show. Okay. The only two things on there that scream quarantine to me are Wake Out and Zoom. Now, I read a bit about Wake Out. Mostly what I read about Wake Out is, hey, look, Apple is picking apps nobody has heard of. Because Wake Out is not something that a lot of people did know about, but apparently it is. I mean, it bills itself as exercise for busy people. It could also be billing itself as exercise for people who don't have room and can't go anywhere, because that seems to be what it is. It's a way to sort of get yourself active throughout the day, which you would think is what the Apple Watch would be for, but all the Apple Watch does is tell you to stand up. This thing's apparently supposed to lead you on work apps or workout apps, excuse me. That sure sounds like something for quarantine times, because I'm not the most creative about figuring out, how I can exercise in my place. So, okay. And of course, Zoom very much speaks to quarantine times, because whether it's because we're working from home now and we still need to talk to our boss, or our boss needs to talk to us or our coworkers or whatever, there's no shortage of apps that'll do that now. I've got one advertising this week on in a few minutes. There are plenty of other ways that you can do that too. Think Slack. I don't know if they have a video component, but I know they have an audio component. Of course, we've got FaceTime. We've got all these different things that can. Zoom won this year, which is kind of funny because Zoom had so many security issues. I want to say last year that when I was doing Mission Log Live, we talked about not even using it anymore. Maybe that bad press from last year was enough to let people know, oh yeah, Zoom does that to varying degrees as far as security. So yeah, that one speaks of, the pandemic as well. I don't know. It seems to me that list only says pandemic. That list only says quarantine because you're reading it thinking, wow, 2020 quarantine year. Oh yeah, look at these apps. That proves it. See, what's weird is if you actually look at the 5 most downloaded free apps for the year, and I forgot to look at paid apps. It's not that I'm against paying for apps. I just forgot to find that list. The 5 most downloaded free apps for this year, number 5 is Instagram. Number 4 is YouTube. Hello. Number 3 is Disney Plus. Number 2 was TikTok. And number 1 was Zoom. Again, so that speaks to quarantine life. TikTok is interesting to me because I'm pretty sure that the reason that TikTok comes in at number 2 is because we all thought nobody was going to be able to get TikTok, at least here in the States. Because, what's his name? President Trump said, yeah, we're going to outlaw TikTok. We're going to ban TikTok. And then I don't even know where that whole thing ended up legally at this point. Was their parent company forced to divest? Does it now belong to someone else? Here's what I know. I downloaded it because I wanted to be sure I had access to it in case it did go away the following week. I sat there and watched it for about 45 minutes, I think, and incredibly addictive. So much so that I have not opened it again. It's one of those things. Like the time I played World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft had a free weekend, one weekend, or a free week, or maybe it was even a free month. I don't know. This was years ago. This was over 15 years ago. And I played for that free weekend, and I never played again because all I did that weekend was play. Person I was living with at the time was out of town, so I had nothing to do but play a video game, and that's all I did. I think I went out, got takeout, came back, and just played World of Warcraft. I'm not saying TikTok is quite that bad, but you can lose yourself really quickly in that. So it's kind of funny to me. Disney Plus being number 1, not overly surprised, or number 3, excuse me, not overly surprised. It was relatively new at the first of the year. YouTube, kind of weird, but okay. And Instagram, I don't understand at all. Oh, look, here's my couch. Oh, look, here's my couch from a different angle. Look, here's me dressed up in front of my couch. I'm not going anywhere. All right, now I will say something that seems to be a bone of contention with some people. Apple Music also came out with their Replay 2020, not their Replay 2020, your Replay 2020. I don't know if you know this. For the past few years, what they've done is they look back at your stuff and say, here's what you played most this year. And you can save it as a podcast. I'm not a podcast. You can save it as a playlist so that it never changes. Actually, I don't know if it changes or not because that'd be kind of weird because there's a month left. But the other thing is, if you start listening to Replay 2020 because you like Replay 2020 so much, well, there's Replay 2021 already taken care of, which honestly is kind of funny. I'm finding for the first time that I want more granular controls over music than Apple Music is willing to give me. Because let me run down for you, if I may, my top 5. It's like 5 hours long. And it's kind of interesting because I can see where I went through certain phases. There are songs I haven't thought about in a while. Like earlier this year, I watched, because I'm a fun-loving guy, I watched the Hulu series, The Looming Towers, which is a dramatization of the lead up to 9/11 with actual people, not actual people, I mean with actors, but playing actual characters. And I only know that they're actual characters because one day I was watching the news and they said, Ali Sufan is here with us, and he's one of the main characters in The Leaning Towers. And what's it called? Oh, somebody the man, Portugal the Man, did a song called "So American" that was used for the closing credits of one of those episodes. And I love Portugal the Man whenever I hear something that they do, or he, I don't even know. And so I listened to that song a lot for a couple of weeks. Apparently, so much so that it's now like in the middle of my Replay 2020 list. So it's kind of neat to go back and watch that because I thought it was all going to be the same stuff. And then I remember, oh, yeah, I went through that Pretenders phase earlier this year. There are a few of those songs. Oh, yeah, I went through that. What's the other one? Well, Willie Nelson. That happens every now and then. My 2 Willie Nelson songs that turned up, Vote 'Em Out and It's All Going to Pot. And you can probably guess what each of those songs is about. So here's my top 5. Number 5, In the Waiting Line by 07. Number 4, Prince Charming by Adam the Ants. Number 3, The Road by 07. Number 2, Somersault by 07. And number 1, Fake Plastic Trees by Javadi. Raman Javadi. I don't know how to pronounce his name, and I should have looked that up. I'm sorry. Raman Javadi. That is from the Westworld Season 1 soundtrack. Not Fake Plastic Trees by Radiohead, although it is that song. If you haven't watched Westworld, I won't spoil anything, but they do have songs that you know, like I want to say Paint It Black and Fake Plastic Trees, and I can't remember some of the other ones that are played in sort of a player piano style. Like there's a player piano in Westworld that plays some of these hits. I think Smells Like Teen Spirit been one as well. Now, what's funny to me about those songs, that whole thing, with the exception of number 4, Prince Charming, that whole thing is a function of me using Apple Music Media as my alarm clock. I don't think I've listened to any of those songs all the way through once this year, but they play every day. Yes, I have 4 songs that play every day. Back off. I wish there was a way that it could look at it and go, he's not really listening to those songs. In fact, he's not even listening to 10 seconds of those songs before he hits snooze. I wish there was a way to take that out. My top 5 is always going to be dominated by whatever I slept through when I woke up in the morning. One other thing really quickly, I'm not sure that the Replay 2020 is actually working because I know that there was a week solid where I didn't listen to anything but Sir Duke by Stevie Wonder. That is a song I do not own. I was only listening to it on Apple Music, and yet it is not in those 5 hours and change of songs that it says were my favorites this year. Oh, I'm not calling Apple Music a big stinking liar. You remembered when I got into the Night Moves by Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. How does it miss Sir Duke? I don't know why they do these things as early as they do, honestly. There's plenty of time. Well, I guess it's good that they don't do Replay 2020 because then next year it would all be music, Christmas music, wouldn't it? Like I started listening to Elf's Lament by the Bare Naked Ladies last night. I will be listening to that quite a bit. I will be listening to my Christmas playlist quite a bit over the next month. Wouldn't it be crazy if your Replay 2020 came out on January 1st and it was all, did I really have that much of a thing for Little Town of Bethlehem by Elvis Presley for all of 2020? That's the reason to do the music that early. I'm assuming the rest of it is actually part of the marketing push, right? We're not done yet. We're not done with 2020, no matter how much we might want to be. We're just not. But, if Apple puts out this list saying, here are the top apps, here are the top games, because they're not the same thing, apparently. Here are the top podcasts. Don't get me started. Maybe if they put out all these lists, then somebody who wasn't sure what they were going to buy, somebody will try to buy an iPhone 12 and come away sad because, well, no, an iPhone 12 you can get, an iPhone 12 Pro or 12 Pro Max you can't get at this point. Maybe they could buy a Pod Mini. Oh, no, sorry, it's a little late for that too. Unless you go hunting high and low. Ask Allison Sheridan. She knows what I'm talking about. Should I talk about the podcast thing? I shouldn't, but I'm gonna. So the top, 10, 12 podcasts that Apple lists, near as I can figure, there is only one that is not produced by a company. It's called You're Wrong About, and it's a couple of reporters who go and examine something and talk about what we thought we knew about it, but we don't. A couple of journalists, I should say, not a couple of reporters, which I don't know what the distinction is there, but they are a couple of journalists who actually research something and talk about how the thing that we all know about a thing is actually not true. Just one of those things that we all decided somewhere along the way. Everything else is from the Washington Post. It's from Wondery. It's from the New York Times. It's from Serial. Pardon me for being somebody who's been in this space for 15 years, but where's Brian Ibbett? Dude's been producing an amazing show on his own for the past 16 years. I understand why Apple might stay away from some of the Apple stuff. I understand why Apple would never say MacCast. I understand why Apple would never say My Show. There are several reasons. Maybe it's time, though, that we have two categories, pro and amateur, maybe. Because, of course, Wondery is going to beat Rock and Roll Geek Show. They got the money. They got the talent. I'm not saying that Michael Butler is not talented, but if you're in LA and have a recording studio and can afford to hire people and can't make something that sounds better than the Dawn and Drew show, well, you're not ending up on Apple's list. Anyway, I was going to talk about that, and then I did. I'm going to blame somebody in the chat room for goading me. I don't know who, because I'm not reading the chat room, but I'm sure it was one of you people. You'll get yours. Coming up in just a minute, we're going to do a bit of feedback about waterlogged iPhones. Before we do that, though, very excited about tomorrow's edition of the Checklist, brought to you by Secure Mac. I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that there was a story about Apple sort of walking itself past what's the word I'm looking for? User configured firewalls. Some of Apple's services are just walking themselves straight past. I can't remember exactly how many. I am hoping you will find out tomorrow, though. It was Patrick Wardle of Objective-C.com. He's also a Mac security guy for Jamf, and he used to work for the NSA. And Patrick found this behavior, and worse still, Patrick found that it's fairly easy for somebody who's relatively determined to piggyback on top of the services that Apple is letting walk past the firewall with malware. Yay! So I didn't want to just read an article about that and tell people about it. I wanted to talk to Patrick about it. Luckily got him on the phone last week. That is going to be on tomorrow's checklist, brought to you by Secure Mac. You're looking for checklist number 209. Now you can find that by subscribing to the podcast wherever you subscribe to podcasts. I know it's on all of them. It's probably not on all of them. I know it's on a lot of them, though, because I'm supposed to make sure it's on a lot of them. So Apple Podcasts, Ghana, Amazon Podcasts, whatever that music thing that they have is called. I don't know if it's on Google Podcasts. I'm sorry, I don't remember off the top of my head. But look for the podcast, The Checklist by Secure Mac. You're looking for episode 209, or you can go straight to the site, securemac.com/checklist. It is always a pleasure to talk to Patrick Wardle. And yeah, I hope you'll check that show out. Right, let's do feedback, and then we'll get out of here. Past couple of days, I've been doing stories about the resistance to iPhone's water resistance coming from Italy. Italy fined Apple $12 million US. I don't know where they're going to get it. How are they going to pay that fine? I don't understand $12 million. That's next to nothing for Apple. That's not. And the thing is, they'll still fight it. I mean, sure, I imagine that they will still fight it, because if they just roll over for that 12 million, then they got to roll over for every $12 million. And then suddenly they've lost $1 billion of their 200 billion they have in the bank. And anyway, Italy said that the iPhone is not nearly as waterproof as Apple had said, because Apple has rated it safe is not quite the right word, but water resistant for up to 30 minutes at down to 6 meters, right? That's what Apple has said. And Italy said, well, that's your stupid lab water that you're talking about, not real water. So, $12 million, please, or however many that is in euros. And then CNET did a piece this week, where they tried that and it was fine. And they didn't do any lab water. They went to Lake Tahoe, 52 degrees Fahrenheit the water was, although the second test, it was like 50 degrees Fahrenheit, 2 degrees colder the further down they went. Because the first test they did was the 19 feet down, or the 6 meters down, or whatever it is, for 30 minutes. Took the phone out. It worked fine. The speaker was muffled, but otherwise it worked great. And then they were like, well, how are we going to kill this thing? And so then they put it like 40 feet underwater, attached to a drone. They did that for 40 minutes instead of the 30 minutes, pulled the thing back out of the drink, and it worked fine. At first, they ended up with some fogging on the lens, and they did also, they broke it. There was a diagnostic page that they couldn't get past. One wonders if they might have been able to if they took better care of it. Like if they pulled it out of the water and then just turned it off and let it dry by itself, as opposed to putting it in something that would draw out the moisture, maybe the phone would have done better. I got to say, though, it's amazing that as soon as they pulled it out, it was still working. How does that happen? I don't know. And I'll tell you who else doesn't know. It's Brandon. Because Brandon wrote to me after those stories to say, for what it's worth, my brother's iPhone 10 and my iPhone 11 both experienced significant damage from a short time in water. My Face ID camera still doesn't work, and my phone typically gets stuck in recovery mode when booting. Perhaps chemicals in pool water are more damaging than lake water. Okay, see, that makes more sense. I don't know how I didn't think about a swimming pool, because that's probably where people are mostly going to drop their phones and be able to retrieve them. If you're standing on a bridge taking a picture of a pond or, a lake or something, and you drop your phone, I'm guessing your phone's not going to work, not just because, water damage, but also it's at the bottom of a lake. Pool water is chlorinated, and chlorine might not be good. Brendan goes on to say, I am not thrilled with Apple refusing to service when Phil Schiller was up on stage with a photo of a phone at the bottom of a pool and saying not to worry if it falls in the water. Either cover water damage under warranty or stop advertising the phone as fine under 3 meters of water for up to 30 minutes. So says Brandon. Maybe they shouldn't put that on the box. Here's the thing. Are they required to put some sort of water resistance on the box? I don't know. Are they required to say how it will do? I know they say that my iPhone 11 will be fine. I do everything I can to keep it from getting wet. I'm now to the point where if I'm washing my hands and I need to move my phone, I'll go ahead and do that without worrying. But as soon as I'm done, I really quickly dry my phone. Seems like Apple's in sort of a damned if you do, damned if you don't at this point. Because on the one hand, you don't want people to think, well, it doesn't say anything about waterproofing on here. I'm never going to buy that because I might get it wet. On the other hand, you know, if your mileage may vary so much, that seems like kind of a drag. I'm also kind of with Brandon on the whole maybe Apple should actually, repair these things if we're going to talk about that. The problem is, I mean, Brandon, no offense. I'm sure he would be completely honest, but if I drop my phone for an hour in water, what's to stop me from coming in and say, yeah, I dropped it for 5 minutes? Because they can't time that, right? I mean, it would just be taking your word. I'm not saying your word is no good, but that's not how business does business. Maybe one day we'll have a phone with no ports. Hate that idea still and always will. I think it's going to do it for today. I would love to hear your thoughts on anything that you have to share about this show. If you've got some picks for the top apps of the year, and I'll tell you what, we'll actually wait until the year is almost over to do that again. If you've got picks for apps or games, I'm not picky. You can send me those. Either leave a comment on this video, or you can also go to send me an email, info@macoscan.com. If you're in the chat room, please stay in the chat room. I will be by momentarily. If you're not in the chat room and would like to be sometime, there's a space for you. Yes, there is. We do this every day at 3:30 Eastern, we do this every day at 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern, other times, other places, Monday through Friday. And we'd love it if you would join us as well. Got macOS Ken tomorrow morning, got In a Few Minutes tomorrow morning, got the checklist tomorrow morning, got macOS Ken live tomorrow afternoon. I will talk to you one or all of those times. Take care. Why do I tell you to be quiet? I can't hear you anyway. I'm the one who needs to be quiet, but I don't because I can always cut off the part where I talk again. Let me stop my recording. And welcome to the post-Babel portion. It's right there at the top, the post-Babel portion of our time together. Let me grab my coffee glasses and let me see what you guys are up to and what you have to say. Do. Bill says 2020 only really had 3 months, January, February, and March. January, February, and half of March, Bill. We went inside on the 13th of, on Friday, the 13th of March. It never came out. Love the roll calls. Okay, so we're back up to there. My picture is wonky. Oh, John said his picture and sound were wonky. Frank says the feed was acting up, so that's all good news. Okay, everybody says it got better, I think. Ha. John says he made some 2020 novelty glasses at the first of the year with the hopeful phrase, excuse me, I can see clearly now. I'm going to set them on fire for the new year, says John. Pictures where it never happened and we're all stuck here. Hey, Matthew. I see you showed up late, but it's good to see you here. Thank you very much, sir. Ba-ba-ba. I assume Brian says sometimes when a company is caught, it's the best time to visit or use their product because all eyes are on them. I assume you're talking about Zoom. Yeah, Eugene says the same thing. There's no such thing as bad press. Kind of funny. No, Matthew. Matthew says one of the best parts of 2020 has been macOS Ken Live, starting to catch it live, having the virtual interaction with people like you guys. He's talking about you. I think he's talking about me too, but he's talking about you. So thanks, Matthew. Post pictures of your couch and tag Ken. Yeah, I'm going to be an Instagram influencer. That's how I'm going to be an Instagram influencer. Not by being on Instagram, but by influencing what turns on Instagram. You've heard of it. Picture show. Frank, yes, there is a bit of TMBG on my 2020 playlist. There's a bit of Elton John too, because I went through one of those phases, and a bit of Tom Petty because I went through one of those phases. Mostly, though, honestly, it's still 07 because that is one of the playlists I go back to, but not as much as the replay would have you believe. Ooh, interesting. Is that a good thing to wake up to? Matthew says he knew a guy who had a CD player alarm, and he'd wake up every day to Tom Waits' Nighthawks at the Diner. Tom Waits might be a little rough to wake up to. I like The Road by 07 for my wake-up song. Is it wrong to confess that I go to sleep listening to podcasts, says Bill? No, there are whole podcasts set up to sleep to. There's a podcast called, there's actually a podcast called Sleep With Me, I think. Never listened to it, but the guy's downloads are insane because he apparently just talks. He picks a subject and he actually talks about the subject, but he talks about the subject in a very calming, relaxing way. And the episodes are very long. And people fall asleep to it. And he's got like 5-star reviews all over iTunes. Donna usually goes to sleep listening to Law and Order. Doesn't that bum bum wake you up though? Every 30 seconds. Frank tries to play something laid back. Interesting. Dan who, Bill? Oh, Dan Benjamin. Okay. 5x5? Dan Benjamin is working on a book for people to go to sleep to. He should work on a subscription service. Here's what he should do. He should pay me to give him the macOS Ken script every day, and then he can read Apple News to people, but in a soothing, calming way. Nate says he's looking forward to hearing the interview with Patrick. Yeah, it was fun. I mean, it was, Patrick's good. Where are we? You're not wrong, John. John says the most common body of water affecting iPhone is found in every home. Usually happens when your back is turned as you sit down. I'll bet you're right. And I'll bet the number of people who admit that when they go to an Apple store is almost none. I'm trying not to make a lot of jokes right now, so I'm not going to. Eugene says he stupidly had his iPhone 11 in his swim trunks, got in his diving pool, fell out of the pocket, and noticed it missing an hour after he got out, fished it out, still works fine, 10 feet down. After an hour in pool water? How I know there's like a million people, literally a million people working on making iPhones. And I know even though the whole process is regimented, they can't all be exactly the same. But how can it be so wildly different from person to person? Is it the chlorine level in the pool? Is it how it hit the bottom of the pool, maybe? Is it some people in iPhone City are better at sealing the things than others? Somebody call Team 4. They need to investigate. Frank says that he has read that there's more bacteria found on smartphones than any other object. That's gross. It's because they won't let you wipe it with anything. It's because you can't clean it. You just have to buy a new one after 2 years. Basically, when you can't see the screen anymore, that's gross. I'm sorry. Yeah, Eric says he sometimes falls asleep listening to the Phil Hendry podcast, but it seldom works because he's laughing too much. I haven't listened to Phil Hendry in years. I used to listen to him on the radio. I can't imagine trying to fall asleep to that, though, because the guy's brilliant. I mean, funny. Just incredibly funny. John says some people do admit where the water came from, although Genius Bar customers usually have no idea why it's not working until the Genius, shows them the water spot, the spot that shows that there's been water. At which point somebody probably says, "Genius." All right, I'm going to go turn this into an audio podcast. Well, not this part, but the other part. I forgive me. I think it was Matthew who said that this has been one of the best parts of coming on strong for 2020. This thing that we do every afternoon, and I got to say, it picks me up every day that we do it. Probably the part where we talk at the end. So, thank you for being here, and yeah, all that stuff I talked about tomorrow, and we'll do this tomorrow afternoon. Take care. You rock.